Good morning. Welcome to our session this morning. As it says on the slide, oh, it says me on the slide. No. It's all about what's behind a great meeting experience. And we've been working over the past few months with a group of outstanding people that have been forward thinkers in our industry in the past and going forward. So what lies behind the meeting is actually what's going to take us to the future. In the spirit of IACC, all the folks that have been working on this project have been volunteers, and all that have a passion for the meetings business and for keeping us ahead of the clients, the customers, to be able to deliver that exceptional experience that they've come to enjoy at the IACC conference centers. So my sincere thanks to everyone. There's a long list. Please review the panelists' names and the volunteers that have been working behind the scenes so that you can understand the depth and breadth of knowledge that we've brought together in this process. This is only phase one, so volunteers, please know that you signed up for the full Monty here. Phase one is coming to a close with our first survey, which you will get some of the preview of those survey results in just a few minutes. So before everyone else out there, you're going to have that preview. Meeting Room of the Future initiative is the culmination of a lot of thinking and a lot of the traditions within IACC. And to Alex's points yesterday, the IACC of the future, this is going to support that initiative so that we have our knowledge base to be able to build, construct, design, and deliver the spaces and the experiences that our customers are looking for. So today we've got the exciting hour ahead of us. We've got some great people, experts in the front of the room, and I know we've got some great experts in the room, so we're hoping for some exceptional dialogue. And we have a terrific facilitator who's going to take us through this process, and I'd like to introduce Diane Devitt.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. I'm even more excited to introduce myself as an experienced designer and producer. Yay, we finally got to that name, right? I'm also an author of a book called What Color Is Your Event? And I have the distinct pleasure of teaching a new group of millennials every semester at New York University as an adjunct professor for way too many years. So I'm excited to be here and introduce my esteemed panel, David Adler, CEO and founder of BizBash. David, I know, veteran media and event entrepreneur. David, BizBash also owns Master Planner and Event Leadership Institute. And following David is Terry Bickham from Deloitte Services, Deloitte Chief Learning Officer, which really scares me.
Me too.
This is out to even more, right, exactly, for federal, global, and industry development. So if you want to know anything, ask Terry, okay? Tessa Horowitz. Tessa, I'm moving into one of the Chateau Form homes, okay?
You are.
Tessa is the director for Chateau Form. I love Tessa's background in fashion and luxury, and she also comes to us with vast knowledge of international business. Chris Kelly. Chris, when I printed out your bio, COFO came out because the computer shut it off. I said, Chris coined a new word, co-founder. All right, COFO of Convene. Chris is a visionary. Chris also started a Rethink group, which we'll talk about, and was also the founder of Evo Jets. And last but not least, Anthony, you can't leave that Surface Hub, can you?
No, I'm sorry.
You have to be the closest to your machine,
That's
right?
right.
Like a musician with their instrument, right?
It's like it keeps you on life support.
So yes, so Anthony Kinney is the technical sales professional from Microsoft and is introducing that little fella at the end called Surface Hub with us today. So I'd like now to introduce Robin. Oh, you're here behind me, excuse me. Robin Dubner with DCI Development Counselors International. There you go, Robin.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And first and foremost, I just wanted to thank IACC for the opportunity to be a research partner on this initiative. DCI is the leader in marketing places, and we've partnered with IACC on several other research initiatives, but I think this is probably one of the most ambitious ones, but also yields some great, really valuable information. I don't think there'll be anything too surprising in terms of the actual survey findings, which was the foundation of this phase one of the project, but I think it will very much confirm and sort of validate sort of the existing expectations and understanding of what meeting planners are looking for in their venue selection. I was asked just to kind of quickly kick off the meeting with some of sort of a high altitude overview of some of the findings from our survey. I did want to quickly talk about the background of the survey as well, the methodology. We approached meeting planners on 5 continents, and 150 planners responded to provide their input into kind of what their expectations are currently, as well as how they expect those expectations to change over time. And we had a great distribution of planners responsible for both corporate, association, government meetings, so very good distribution. We also asked a series of classification questions, such as age, so we are able to provide differences and crosstab data on geographic and age distribution responses. Overall, though, really, I think one of the key takeaways is that these meeting planners clearly understand the importance of the venue in delegate productivity, creativity. There's absolutely no question that that's the case. Over time, meeting planners do not expect the objectives of their meetings to change significantly. They're looking for a very, purpose-driven event and offering a great experience for their delegates. But what we found through the survey is that these methods of providing that experience are changing over time, and there will be some differences in sort of how they deliver these results. So, Diane, I believe we're going to be talking about some of the more detailed aspects in terms of the overall objectives of
Yes.
the meetings these planners are conducting.
Yes. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I find it very interesting that we're all familiar with theater. We're all familiar with the dynamics and the experience that we receive when we go to theater. And now how exciting is it that the world of theater is actually entering our world? That people are finally looking at the venues for their importance because they are the stage that sets the whole play and players and how people react and interact to it. So it's a very interesting time that we live in and the evolution of this. So I also think ahead to a few years ago when I was with a group of people and I said to them, let's name some titles for the future. Director of Client Experiences, Artistic Director, Event Stylist. All of these things are now seeping and integrating into our world, and it's a very exciting time. So I'd like to actually start with Chris today. Chris, thank you for the hosting and for convening everything they're doing.
Honored to host.
Because Chris, so share with us a little bit about your vision and how Convene came about. I know when we spoke about this, one of the things that came to me was human-centered design. So share a little bit, please.
So the vision for the company is very much informed by our understanding and observation that the worlds of hospitality and real estate are colliding, and that you're starting to see hotels taking on a lot of the attributes of you would traditionally find inside of a hotel, in a workplace, and the opposite is also true. And so when we looked at the generational preferences and expectations for what workplace includes, we saw a need to create a greater level of hospitality on demand inside of the commercial workplace and office buildings. And so the vision for the company is essentially to look at a commercial office building and transpose all of the hospitality services that you would expect to find in a full-service hotel. Amenities being conference, fitness, workplace, food services, things of that nature, and to introduce those into the workplace and on-demand service. So it's in our minds, we're kind of democratizing the Googleplex so that companies of all different scale and size can have access to a full-service workplace. So that's the vision. The human-centered design is the methodology that we've used to make that vision come true. And essentially, it makes us become very deliberate about how we map the stakeholders and how we design experiences around all 5 senses, and how every single aspect of our operations is informed by an understanding of purpose and intention as to what people are trying to get out of that experience.
So I really like the hospitality on demand, and you're very, I know you've used the terminology of anticipatory service.
Yes.
Which is, and how did that carry over to your operation?
So anticipatory service is the idea that we really, if we say that we are trying to materially improve collaboration and productivity in the space, then we need to in turn answer, how are we actually doing that? And anticipatory service is part of our vision, which is to try to think about all the different needs that can come up inside of a productive meeting room, and to address those before they're asked for, so that the flow of that conference and the productivity is never interrupted. And also because we've come to understand that a lot of times people wouldn't ask for things that they would need, they would just do without, and that the productivity would be lesser for it. And so the idea of anticipatory service has to do with the resources that we build into the meeting rooms. As you can see, everything is built in, so that it can be used as needed, which is oftentimes different than as it was planned. And we include, office supplies and resources in the rooms that are always visible and accessible. And even, the way that we design our service in general, not just the physical space design, but the service design is also falls under that anticipatory service concept.
Well, it's really interesting because one of the key findings in the report, which you will read, that came up was that meeting room art design elements should be developed to motivate delegates. So I know personally for me, just this morning, I needed a pen. So you turn and there's a pen. It's a true form of luxury when we don't have to think about what we need in terms of, and then we can just be immersed in this experience. And I think that Chateau form to the immersion experience, and to Tessa, one of the things that Chateau form is known for is we want you to feel at home. Now, I wish my home looked like one of your properties or locations,
look like
but
that.
I'm working on that. I'm working on that, so we'll get to speak later. But would you like to share with us your vision and how it came about, and in terms of how it's fitting into this need for design to meet expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing is, the way our houses are built is that you can use every space fully as it's yours. So you don't have to ask for anything. So that whole thing you were talking about a minute ago is, of course, like you're going to need things, but the idea with the feel like at home concept is that everything is there, you just have to help yourself. And so you can really use the space however you want it to use. So it's constructed like a house, so you have different spaces, a bit like in your home, and bigger, and in nice chateaus, so it helps with feeling inspired as well.
Really nice chateaus.
If
you haven't checked out their website, you have to
What I
take a
really
look,
want to
yeah.
know is what's in the closets, and if it comes with clothes that I can wear everything. No, I'm kidding.
No, we don't provide that part.
Okay.
So anyway, it helps you really feel like, oh, I need to break out now. I want another space. I want to just take some air. I want my team to move out of the meeting room and do something else. And we design also every meeting completely differently. So every meeting room is designed to inspire depending on what you're coming.
And what do you mean by that in terms of differently?
Well, it's since we are in historical buildings, most of the time you have historical things in the building that we're going to use within the meeting room as well. And so every meeting room is going to have its own personality, its own colors, its own hues, its own purpose, because we have different types of meeting rooms. You don't have only plenaries. We have breakout rooms that are designed for smaller groups, bigger groups. We have auditoriums that are designed for more like training purposes. We have creativity types of room where you can design anything you want and create anything you want and go very messy in the room, and so on and on.
Well, I think you're right on target because, again, I'm referring to the findings of the report. I believe there will be greater emphasis on encouraging delegate creativity. And one of the things that we as adults have to relearn is how to play with one another. And we need to give ourselves, which I speak about giving ourselves permission to play. And this is very old. It actually goes back to Plato and the Republic, for those of you who are familiar with that. But it's all about being in a safe and secure environment that enables you to forget where you are so that you can then totally focus on who you're with, and the whole experience becomes alive. It's a very big part of that. And
Diane, can I
Yes,
just
please.
add something? So
I'm going to ask you, Terry.
Oh,
You go.
okay.
That was
I
for you
picked up the
anyway.
brainwave. Well, so it may not be what you're going to ask me, but just picking up on what you were saying about anticipatory design, and I think that's excellent. And I think even the next level beyond that, you know, as a user of the spaces and as the person who puts programs on in the spaces, is creating the experience of we were expecting you.
Correct.
Emphasis
Yeah.
on you and personalizing it, not just for the group, but think about customizing it for the individuals. And I think that's the next step that we would like to see is that personalization that goes beyond, I think, what most are doing now. So I just wanted to make that comment.
No, and also, Terry, because that's a perfect segue, because one of the things that we spoke about were with your focus and the demographics, if you could speak about that a little bit, to who you serve at Deloitte and what the user expectations are, how you've become aware of that.
Well,
If you can,
they make us very aware of it.
totally, right?
So a little bit, about Deloitte. About 75,000 employees in the U.S. and getting close to 300,000 worldwide. We hire about 20,000 people a year. Much of that's organic growth, not just turnover. And our audience are people that we pay attention to. Really run the gamut from campus hires all the way through senior partners, and we treat everyone the same when it comes to an experience like we're talking about. So there's some data, and I know we're going to talk about learning and all that in a little bit. But something that we really need to pay attention to with this group are their expectations. 50% of our employees are millennials, and that number is only going to grow exponentially. Our leaders in 5 to 10 years are going to be millennials. So we have to be ahead of the curve on that personalization that I was talking about and the expectations. The other thing that we have to be very aware of is that the attention span is very short. So we know that if we don't, and this applies to, I'm a millennial, but last millennium.
You're going to coin a new phrase, the boomer millennial.
Yes, it kind of fits. It kind of fits with me too. But you have 5 to 10 seconds to get someone's attention.
That's right.
And if we don't do that, they're going to move on to checking their phone. And in a program, people typically, I'm not talking about an hour-long program, but a day-long program, people typically unlock and check their phone 20 times. So we have to think about, how do we engage them very quickly? Doesn't matter if they're campus hires, doesn't matter if they're senior partners. There's basically a lot going on in our lives. So that's our audience.
When you, and that takes us into the physical venue, because the engagement starts at the curb, physically, doesn't it? It's the curb appeal of what is going to draw you in. That's the first impression to meet expectations. Is I've arrived, is the invitation, is the venue what I expected? And so just to go back a little bit, Terry, with you, is you spoke a little bit about evaluations. Are your evals changing in the questions, that you're asking people? I'm just curious to share that in terms of this whole evolution with meeting design. Like, are you being prompted to ask more questions, as in the survey here? So there's one of the questions, I believe there will be greater emphasis on encouraging delegate productivity. Well, who's responsible for that?
I don't know if productivity is actually the right measure. You could argue that engagement's the right measure, but something that is at the root cause of productivity, that leads to more productivity, we have found is making connections and the ability to network. So I don't think you should over-expect what a facility can do as far as productivity. I think what you should expect is how can we lay the groundwork to increase productivity or build productivity. And what we found is, your question about surveys, we do survey. For example, Deloitte University is a leadership development center outside Dallas that we built and own, about 720,000 square feet, 800 hotel rooms. That experience starts, going back to what you were saying, when you land at DFW or Love Field, you get a text telling you where to go to meet your driver. You're picked up at the curb. Doesn't matter if you're a recent college graduate or you're a senior partner. You're picked up the curb and you're delivered at the facility, and someone greets you with your name badge and your room key. We were expecting you, getting back to what I was saying before. That's the start of an experience. But beyond that, getting to what we think is very effective in getting to productivity is space design and activities built to encourage connections and networking. So I think that's at the foundation.
Yes, this whole concept of visual dynamics and kinetic engineering and how we design a space to encourage that flow and energy opens up. And Anthony, I'm going to defer to you. David, I'll be back in a minute. But because Anthony, you encapsulate all of this, don't you?
You know, it's funny.
We all dump on you, don't we? Right? I mean, we can actually use the phrase dumping information, right? And it's a good thing?
Yeah, no,
right?
I mean, when I got the report from Mark, I read through it and I was like, boy, we should just release this as a commercial for the Surface Hub, right? You know, because you look at it, and I really love what Terry was saying. Yeah, right? But I love what Terry was saying, where what we really try to do with this device is specifically, you know, we didn't want to build a video conferencing device, right? We didn't want to build a digital whiteboard. What we wanted to do was build a device that could really unlock the power of the group, right? And that's specifically, I think, what Terry's mentioning is, you know, it's not so much about productivity, but really engaging folks. So, you know, the conversation in the room around the room design is so important for a device like ours, where if we're impeding your ability to come up and use a pen where 3 people can simultaneously write on this device at once, you know, really is going to, you know, defer people from wanting to really engage and kind of do that. So, you know, we really put a lot of effort into the device to really focus on, you know, engagement, bringing people up, adding the technology aspect to as you're designing these rooms. You know, as I walk around here, and I've been here many times with Chris, you know, it's funny, I look in the rooms and you see these 2 or 3 people huddled up and they got 17 easel board papers taped to the wall, right? And you get this little corner over here where what we love to do is give people that digital experience where once they're done, we capture the entire whiteboard. It's emailed back to folks, right? So, you know, getting away from that paper, which I think we'll all agree, what happens with that paper when we leave those meetings, right? Ends up on someone's desk, lost ideas, lost productivity of what we try to accomplish in that meeting, and that's really what we've tried to do. And one other one to that point as well is we've built wireless technology into the device, whereas, you know, in a room like this, or if we're trying to get a lot of people to kind of work together, switching presenters. Huh? How many times you guys been in a room and like, uh-oh, especially the poor guys in the back, at 7:07, this guy's going to present and someone will come dance while people are running up and, you know, trying to switch out the right wires. So we've built Miracast, or you could put an Apple TV on this and digitally display AirPlay to the device. So maybe there's something from my phone, to your point, or from an iPad or whatever device I'm on that I want to project quickly to the rest of the room. You know, we've really tried to think of those kind of scenarios as we've built the Surface Hub. So
I think it's fabulous.
Really
I can't wait to wear it on my wrist.
Yeah.
Just one thing, speaking of digital and technology, which I want you all, some of you who were here yesterday and you experienced Slido. So we're obviously using it again today, and I invite you to participate as much as you can.
We have a question from Slido.
And we do have a question, yes,
Awesome.
exactly. Which was a perfect segue from Anthony into Chris and Tessa and also Terry, is the technology. How is technology going to play more and more of an important role in the meetings, and what specific actions are you doing in order to stay ahead of the curve?
For us, like, our answer to this is never what people want to hear, especially the press. They're like, do you guys do holographic things in your conferences? The answer is we've tried to create as much stability in the Wi-Fi with fully redundant high-speed connections that actually deliver to the fullest extent of their capability, and be device agnostic so that people can come in here and whatever technology their organizations use, which 99% of the time is cloud-based, that it works seamlessly inside of our environment, and that we have the plugins for them to, the bandwidth, the microphones, and the flat screens for them to really be able to run whatever technology is native to them. And then for the more progressive style things, we try to partner with really smart companies. So we are a partner with Slido, and we've learned a ton from Peter and his team about the product, and it's phenomenal. And we try to make that readily available to our clients. We're partnered with Microsoft and the Surface Hub, which we had a unit here in December, and we're honored to have them back. So I think we're kind of device agnostic, and then we'll prototype and promote people that are doing awesome things, but we don't see ourselves as being the developer of the technology as much as a platform or adopter of whatever the best practices are,
right,
as defined by our clients, and then as we can prescribe to them or suggest to them based on what we know is out there.
Thank you. So Tessa.
Well, I would say technology, yes, but not just technology for technology.
Correct.
There is no point of just putting technology so people come in and they're like 5 minutes staring at a board and think, how am I going to use this? It's only easy in users' technology. It's only if in 2 minutes you have it, you understand it, it's making you an easy way to use it, because there is no point of just putting this new technology and just having people say, well, it's great, it's beautiful, it's too long to use, I'm not going to use
Correct.
it. So what we do in general is we test technology. So we never implement a technology that has not been tested by one site before. So we test it with our customers and we say, okay, do you feel comfortable with it? Do you like it? Do you find it easy? Is it something that you would want to use? And is it something that is helping you in doing something? It's not switching from paper to screens just to switch from paper to screen. It's about whether it's really helping during the seminar you're doing, during the meeting.
Well, again, I think one of the things, and what David will hit on this, is we live in a world where we are technology-centric, and then we have our experiences around it. And when is technology a tool, and when is it a distraction? Terry, did you want to make a comment on that?
I want to echo what Tessa was saying, and love technology, but technology is a tool. And it's more about the design or purpose that you're using the technology for. Frankly, I think sometimes, and I'm not talking about this at all, but sometimes there's a shiny object that we want to have or someone wants to have in the classroom and no idea how they're going to use it, or in the meeting room, and it's not built into the design. I think we need to focus on the basics first. Broadband, more than you can imagine, needs to be in place. Some of the basics about power plugs. I think there's a pretty good design in here. We still aren't getting the basics right before we go full-blown into technology. I stayed at a very nice hotel last night. I won't mention it. The initials are RC. I shouldn't have under the desk to plug in my laptop.
I agree.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
my God.
And I shouldn't have one bar of Wi-Fi in
Correct.
my hotel room. So in our meeting spaces, let the people who are creating the experiences work with the tools that are there to design the experience, not to incorporate the technology because it's there.
Well, and that's interesting because that came out as one of the top, results, delegate email and internet access, #1. I mean, that's just like breath, isn't it? You take a breath, you turn your phone on. In fact, I try not to sleep with my phone.
And Diane, also power. You brought up a great point. I think, and Mark Pirro could confirm, that the most expensive technology in this room that I'm aware of are the power outlets that are on the floor that had to be channeled.
The cord drill.
Yeah, I can't even, I'm embarrassed to say how much it costs, but nobody appreciates it, right? Everybody wants the crazy. Yeah, thank you for being plugged in. But those are the, and
Everyone
Use
give
the
Chris a
plug.
round of applause, please. Thank you very much for the thank you.
but it's the most expensive technology in this room, and it's easy to overlook, but really great venues, are not falling subject to the shiny object syndrome, and they're saying we really want this room to work well.
Want it to work well, you want the smartphone audience participation. So just switching a little bit from digital to people, David, you're in the people business with BizBash. Can you talk to us a little about, you've used you've referenced social physics, you've referenced slow meeting movement. Can you give us your insight?
Well, I have a definite perspective. I come from a perspective where we have about 230,000 people a month coming to our site, BizBash, and looking for ideas to figure out how people are doing it, what's going on, and they're all looking for solutions and ideas. And we allow people to peek over the fence to see what other people are doing because you can't get into someone else's event. So I've gone all fanboy over this guy, Alex Pentland, who wrote a book called Social Physics. Have anyone heard of this book? Social Physics is a book about how ideas flow. And the technology he's doing is he's studying face-to-face in order to make technology more improved. And he goes into he'll go into a call center of a big company, and he'll change the break structure so that all of a sudden, instead of taking breaks in little mini times, they'll all have a lunch together. And lo and behold, the productivity goes to the roof because they're talking about that jerk on the phone and how did I solve that problem? And it sort of is what we have happening at events. So how do the ideas go from your head into your phone or whatever you're doing, and how does it get into your office? And it turns out that it's having an event design or meeting design that really works well. And so all of the stuff about the accoutrements of it are great, but if we don't have people that really understand how to program these meetings and how to do meeting design, it's really what we need. Now, the way I'm trying to solve that problem, and I think it's something that everyone here should do, is I believe that event organizers are really collaboration artists. And collaboration artists are the people that know how to make something happen big time. Like, can you imagine the people that created the climate change conference and are able to change the minds of thousands and thousands of people, or even a political candidate that knows how to work a room and create conversations? So my job, I'm trying to do, is how do I celebritize the collaboration artist or the event organizer so when they do go into the room, they're taken seriously. Like, look at the chef movement that happened. A few years ago, they were the guys cutting carrots in the back room. Nobody cared who they were or knew who they were. And now all of a sudden, they're superstars. In our business, people don't take seriously what we do in a real way. So my whole job is to celebritize the collaboration artist. And I believe at every conference center, you should be celebritizing the people that do great work and let people know what they're doing. Because that's the secret sauce that makes these, if you use the chef analogy, you don't have the best kitchen in the world, but if you don't have a good chef, you're dead.
And then you know what's true, because I remember someone saying years ago, you can give everyone a cucumber, tomato, and lettuce. The salad will all come out differently. You have to really know how to use it and time it, don't you? So you're bringing that up, and also the slow meeting movement.
Well, there's a lot of the Peter from Oracle, what's his last name? I forgot his last name. Anyway, there's a whole movement going to give people more time to take the information that you learned and discuss it. Like, we're doing more and more meetings where you're probably doing the same thing, where you do tables. I have a friend of mine who's doing the ISS meetings, 300,000 people in the company. They do the senior management meetings, and they're turning the senior management meeting into a living, breathing event where they've moved the tables from 6 people to 4 people to have conversations. And because every time you leave a meeting, you forget everything, he makes every one of his senior managers create a webinar or a video cast back to his people right from the second day of the conference. So the meeting design aspects, these little techniques to create great meetings, by these superstars are what we need to showcase more and more and more. I don't know if anyone agrees with that, or if that's...
No, it's a good point.
Could we start that movement right now in your own conference centers?
Everybody raise your hand if you want to start the movement, right?
Because it's a greatest way, it's all about content marketing. Promote your people that are doing great work in your spaces. I know Chris does that, I know that.
Well, it's all about collaboration, as you said, but one of the things you brought up, which I want to speak to about, and came out, again, in the survey, I feel the format of break and meal times at conferences and meetings should change. Now, I'm a big advocate of eating well and food. I remember going to a session at a conference years ago. The room was set for 200. I think 10 people were in the room with the topic Thought for Food. But that's changed because we now know food is medicine and brain food can keep you alert. And I know Chris, Tessa, I know Terry, would you like to give us a quick comment on that in terms of the whole concept of meeting design and how food plays such an integral role? Terry, you want to start?
Sure. Well, two ways. One is the food has to be exceptionally good, because what are people going to talk about? More than they talk about the content of the program. They're going to talk about the food, and they're, whether it was good or not. So it's got to be exceptional. And the second thing is, it's not just the food, but it's, and you were alluding to this, it's how are you eating the meal? How are you organized so that connection happens and networking happens. So it's those two things when it comes to food.
Yeah, good.
I have a
Yes.
certain Secretary of State that I work for who thinks that food design is all about smart power, and that the chefs and all those people are the ultimate connectors and the ultimate networkers.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
Tessa?
Yeah, well, I fully agree. Basically, it's not about just like, okay, you can have amazing food, but if it's displayed the wrong way, if it's served at the wrong time, if it's in a place where nobody can access it, everybody's like, oh, I can't eat because there's too many people around the table or whatever. If you feel like you cannot sit down, all of these things, like basically the networking moment that you're creating around the food, it's also how you display all of that and how is the environment around it and how do you create a moment, an experience of that food moment.
Right.
It's not just about the food itself.
Because we eat with our eyes first, don't we? So, Chris?
So I'll use this as an occasion to explain a little bit about that human-centered design method that Diane referenced earlier, which is we did a lot of just observation in our space and user research and trying to understand how that could be applied to our food program. And as part of that, we mapped out stakeholders or user preferences ranging from healthy to hearty. And so we profiled different types of people who might be attending the conference, understanding that the difference between table service with a menu and conference service is that you never have the ability to ask people what they really want. So we have to anticipate what people might have a preference for. And so every one of our buffets is served with an understanding that there'll be people with preferences ranging from healthy to hearty. But then thinking more about how food and the way that food is served actually influences the flow of the conference. My favorite kind of random fact about the Convene menu is that every single thing on our menu can be enjoyed without using a knife. And the reason for that is very deliberate, which is that people are expected to walk around and mingle and socialize in their lunch hour instead of sitting down. But the second that you require a knife, you need a table and you usually take a seat and you become sedentary. And so we wanted to free people up to be able to mingle more. And so you'll see that in our menu. Now, taking the meeting planner as a user into consideration, the menu changes 5 days a week, so that if you have a meeting planner with a 3-day program, they don't have to go through the effort to change the menu so that there's variety, that it's automatically built in. So this is that user profiling and anticipatory service. And so, yes, the food absolutely needs to taste good. It needs to be amazing, but we've tried to elevate and challenge ourselves beyond just aesthetic and beyond just taste and flavor. What role does food play, and how can we use it to support the intention of that time before, between, and after a conference for networking and kind of decompression?
Which is critical. Many years ago there was a book written called Refrigerator Rights, and it was about how you can tell the relationship that you have with someone if you walk into their home and don't hesitate opening the refrigerator.
That's why we have open spaces. So
I see that.
When we think about designing the food program, we think about what does it feel like? And to Tessa's point about making people feel at home, we believe, like looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, going way back to psychology, that if you can get people to feel at home, and if there's that trust and level of comfort, then they can perform at their peak. And so we have our open food areas because we wanted people to feel at home or to feel as if they were a guest in a really good friend's home. And we said, well, what defines that experience? And we said, well, if you could just go into the refrigerator and take a beer out or grab leftovers, then that's when you know that you're comfortable. And so we tried to recreate that feeling.
So we have the elements, we have the actual physical venues, all right, the locations, we have the food, we have the audio visual. Where does your responsibility end, and when does the responsibility begin for the meeting planner or the experience creator to then direct the content?
If that's for me,
I'll
make it really quick.
Terry, you want to start with that?
Yeah,
one?
go ahead.
Well, can you say the question?
So I'm saying is.
I was reading the
You weren't
question
paying
up there.
attention.
I thought that's a
Oh,
great
I'm sorry,
question.
I didn't even see that there. Well, we'll take that, well, just.
We can come back to
Why
that.
don't we come back to that? But my question is, in other words, these are the elements, right? So you have your venue,
In the food.
you have your stage, you have your food, you have your audio visual. So my question is, where does it end in terms of your responsibility, or where does it begin in terms of opportunities to bring on the collaborative designer, to bring on, because where does the meeting planner's role begin and end? Because the meeting planners are saying experience creation, this is over 80%. Experience creation will be increasingly important when planning meetings. Now, we all know the responsibilities that meeting planners carry right now.
Yeah.
So is this frontier an opportunity for you, or is this the responsibility of planners?
Well, I think it's joint
Okay.
responsibility. And I think the role of the meeting planner starts at the very beginning of program design. And that's generally how we approach it. We'll pair up meeting planners with our event designers, our program designers, our content designers in the very beginning, and they work collaboratively all the way through. I don't think that it's as effective to design a program and then engage a meeting planner, here, help me deliver this. I think it's collaborative all the way through. And a couple of reasons for that. We know that we only devote about 1% of our time to learning, and attendance at conferences and all of that is included into that. In effect, that's all we do, about 1% of our time. And we've got to get it right from the very beginning, and we don't want to take any chances with that event.
That's good. Well, thank you. Tess, you have any quick?
Well, yeah, it starts from the beginning. It also starts before that. We try to also inspire different ways of doing the meeting. So when we are talking to our customers and meeting organizers, way before they even plan to do their meetings, we also say, well, have you thought about like doing cohesion and outside? We have facilities for this. You can do like that. Because sometimes if you don't know the place you're going to,
Correct.
you cannot imagine the 100 million ways you could actually make your event a success and make your meeting a success. So we do that. And also, as you were saying, there is no way a customer knows as well as you do your house or your facility. So you have to share from the start. It is your responsibility. The result of that meeting is as much your responsibility than the person who's organizing it. And from the start, you have to be involved. And until the end, until getting the feedback from the participants, because it's also up to you to get it.
Do you
to a better
provide templates then? Like when I talk about the collaboration athlete or collaboration artist, I mean, it would be helpful if you take the best of what works and provide a template like every other business is doing now to share, because the organizer doesn't really know.
Yeah, we share depending on the company.
Right, but
we
you
know
can share
the
the
companies.
tactics.
We know what type of meetings they do generally. We can help them like think about like different ways of doing that.
But is it done as a sales thing, or is it done as are you, like, I know Convene
No.
has people that are thinking about
Yeah,
the
both.
strategy from the client perspective.
Yeah, both. It can be done as a sell thing, obviously, but it can also be done as if you're just helping. It's just like you're helping to make sure their meeting's going to be so
Right.
good that they will want to come back because.
Again, because this is what I'm saying is like we have to help. If we look at the meeting experience like theater, it has an act, it has a plot, it has subplots. So the connectors could be, go play golf for 20 minutes, or have a pancake breakfast, or play on the Surface Hub, and let Anthony get upset. All right?
No, he wants you to play with them.
I know.
They're hard to break. They would weigh like 1,000
I'll try
pounds.
later.
But one really important point is that we have to look at every use case is different, and there's a big difference in between a professional meeting planner and the role that they want to play in the process. And then we do a lot of business, and a really fast, quickly growing part of our business is working with non-professional meeting planners. And I think that there are some people that want to be in the driver's seat, and there's some people that want to be in the passenger's seat. And it's really important for our planning teams to identify that early on. For the professional meeting planner, their role starts and ends when they say it starts and ends, at least for us. But for the non-professional meeting planner, we try to provide them with a little bit more hand-holding and a little bit more consultation. Definitely, to Tessa's point, nobody knows our venue better than we do. But we do walk a fine line with the professional meeting planners in not stepping on their toes. But one thought to leave everybody with is I try to really think carefully about and deeply about whoever that meeting planner is, professional, non-professional, what's keeping them up the night before the conference? What's the last, if there's an email that they would love to receive right before going to bed when they check their phone, what would that say? And then to try to systematically communicate that
with them.
and make them feel comfortable.
Good, thanks. We have a few questions up here, and David, I'm going to come back to you. Where do you see the biggest room for improvement, innovation, and how venues support meetings? David, you want to start with that? Think about that. Where do you see
I still believe it's the transfer of knowledge to see what works best in their industry and make the event organizer the superstar, because they're going to get that aha moment, whatever it is. I also think that the understanding of the generational audiences, and that the same guy that's coming here may have gone to South by last week or to Coachella. So I'm now sort of thinking of conferences more as knowledge festivals, and that sort of you get in all the elements of different things, so that the same experience, there's no difference, right? Chris is probably the perfect example of understanding the morphing of everything together.
But also,
I'm right on the line.
You're on the line, but also, Anthony, the technology plays a part. Would you say, in terms of the innovation and what can be done?
Absolutely, and I didn't want to interrupt Tess and Terry earlier, but I wanted to add on to the part around the ease of use, right? I think that is so true. And when we decided to build this device, we did so much research in existing conference room technologies and smart boards that have thousands of wires coming out of it, and they sit there because people are intimidated by them, so they don't want to really go use those sort of things. So what we did for this device is we built a very specific custom-based OS. And for example, if you walk up to this hub and you pull a pen off the side, it launches you right into the whiteboard. Right? Nice. There's no logons, there's no connectivity. On the back of the pen is an eraser, right? Like some of these things that are really kind of very basic. When you also on the home screen, if you had designed the meeting to be more of a video conference or bring in some remote peers, you have the ability to tap on the meeting once, right from the home screen. Or to your point, and I saw a question here around smart rooms. So we're working with the Crustrons and the other people of the world where you could have a patch panel coming into the meeting and tap a button there that also triggers the launch of the hub to go into the meeting. What's important about that is two things. I think we all agree there's two huge problems to starting every meeting. One, we sit down and what cable do I have, right? You've got VGA, he's got HDMI, and these are the connectors you have on your PC, right? And everyone has a different one, and the meeting's wasted for 15 minutes, while people get started. So that's why, the ease of use of getting it started. And the second thing, by tapping that meeting, it also puts the passcodes in and all the other stuff that, again, we waste so much time on meetings. So again, really trying to make sure ease of use is really simple. And at the bottom of it, there's an I'm done. And that's what I haven't really heard talked about today, which is, you know, personal information, right? People in your room. What if someone forgets to erase a whiteboard, right? That could have confidential information. So you simply choose an I'm done on the hub, and it wipes out every single thing that was specific to that user or to that meeting and sets it up for the next person coming in. So there's no barrier of entry for multiple meetings or different participants to use it. So
yeah, but then there's
I
no
think that
scoop
helps.
or there's nobody to talk about. That's
No,
what
true.
I want to know. Anyway, I love that part.
That's,
Okay.
that's
still
also one
gossip.
thing to keep in mind. You know, there's one bad part. I'm done means I'm done.
done.
You know, so every time I talk to a lot of enterprise customers, I go in and I say, hey, you choose I'm done. There's no way to go back and get there. And like, wait. And then I stop and I say, let me see your conference room now. Oh, look at this big sticky on the wall. Please erase the board before you leave. And so they're already warning people of these sort of things, and there's no way we can solve that. So by choosing I'm done is in
You're
essence
done.
someone coming in erasing kind of whiteboard, which is good, not bad.
Well, let me see. I know that
I
we
just add one
yes.
thing to the improvements,
Sure,
because I
Chris.
think we talked about a lot of incremental improvements over the things that we're already doing. But I think the one thing that people are not doing at all that we should really start thinking about doing is to be integrating outside services and doing that more proactively. So I think we've talked a lot about experience, but experience is something that needs to be curated, and we need to be able to step out of the ordinary stuff, which is, you know, the food, technology, the whiteboards, the design. What about that huge bucket of everything else in the world? And that we're just starting to think about how we want to deploy that at Convene, but we think we've started to create a list of all these curated providers from the outside world, and we think of them as being like our app store, where anybody can drag and drop those things into their conference experience and do that relatively seamlessly. I think that, you know, among those things that's really important is having professionally facilitated meetings.
Yes.
Is something, you know, there are a lot of times when I'll walk through our locations and I'll see a meeting and you look in and you're like, that looks like it's terrible to be in there. Like, and there's other times you walk past and you see like it's incredible and there's ideas everywhere and you can just feel how great of a conference it was. But the role of facilitation in meetings is, I think, something that is sometimes overlooked, often overlooked.
I'd like to think it's an important part, but anyway.
You know.
So let's see another question here. How are you seeing smart facilitation? Oh, so this is what we're talking about. Excuse me. So did we answer that then? How are we seeing smart
Can I just say that
Yes, please, David.
when I talk about celebritizing the collaboration artist, the facilitators are the prime people that have to be superstars, so that they're going to be where a conference center could actually have more margin on that than anything else because of the intellectual power that that person delivers. And to me, that's where those are the celebrities that you want, that famous chef coming in.
But David, I want to say the way that we look at it, it's a three-legged stool: facility, the content, and the facilitator. Now, you can argue that an amazing facilitator can bring any content to life, no matter what the venue is and all that. And that's part of it. But you need all three of those for the experience of the participant to be memorable. And I think back to the design that we haven't really touched on yet is too often we ignore the purpose of the event. So
Correct.
It's got to be more in the future about, and this came out in the study as well, more about discovery of content and less about dissemination of content. So we're here saying a lot of things. You're only going to remember 10 or 15% of it. But most of what you'll take away from this session is what you talk about with someone else after the event.
No question. I mean, as a matter of fact, in the census, we remember 15%. 85% is nonverbal communication. So all of the experiences that everyone's talking about today is what you will remember, what you will feel, and what will have the most impact with you forever. What you taste, what you smell, what you see has more of an impact than what you hear. I'm sorry to say, panelists, after this. But we do have a couple more questions, and then we're just going to be wrapping up. How do we make spaces outside the meeting room better spaces for networking, indoors and outdoors? I think, Tess, you had hit on that in terms of...
Yeah, well, actually, talking about where we should innovate and improve has to do with that. It's not just the design of the space.
Correct.
That's not enough. You can design the best space in the world if you have nobody who's actually making it to life. And that's our role. As I think, like in Chateaufour, what we do is we put life in those spaces. If you don't have life, if nobody is like telling you, oh, let's go out for a drink now and enjoy the sun. If nobody is taking those moments, and it's not the meeting facilitator who does that, it's you as venue managers. And this is where the teams are so important. This is where you need improvement. This is where you need innovation, because they are there with the customers.
Yes.
They see what's happening, and they have to be able to react and create that experience, create that moment.
Yes. So, for example, I had a meeting a couple of years ago. I was actually at a villa, and we brought in the local historian in the afternoon. And actually, it was a board of directors. Had the board of directors sit outside on the patio, and we created the design and experience back when the villa was built in the 1800s of what the drink of the day was, what the food of the day was, and the local historian shared the history of the home and the area. So it made it real, that it wasn't just a location and a beautiful location. It made them be a part of it and really feel engaged. And that's true meeting design, is taking it to life. So let me just see if I can hit on one more question. Thank you. How do you recognize and deliver special dietary requests and food allergies? I think everyone here, if you could just quickly, you address that. You have special preferences. Can I?
Yeah, well, we tend to have most of our customers, they tell us before whatever the participants needs in terms of food allergies. And then when they arrive on site, we always plan that someone didn't tell us before.
Right.
So you just have to plan it, I think, like saying, okay, this is for sure going to be a vegetarian, for sure going to be a vegan somewhere that didn't say it before, and so you have to.
And you'll take it like that. You know, I'm so glad to see there are other questions, and I'm sure the panelists will be available to answer them for you afterwards. But just to wrap up, it really makes me smile, because I think about, you know, we all first started meeting around when the cavemen built their fire, didn't they? And now we had a campfire discussion this morning. So everything that goes around comes around. It's sort of a back to the future. We sit here and we speak about food and color and creativity and making spaces inviting and having refrigerator doors open. And this is what we all did when we were little children. This is what we did when we were in kindergarten. We colored and we expressed ourselves without barriers. So the whole concept of meeting design is allowing us, again, this permission to play. Thank you so much to Anthony, Chris, Tessa, Terry, and David for their contributions. And I invite everyone here for the rest of the time that you're at this wonderful conference to play yourself. Thank you.